All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What's up, guys? Rio here, going to be talking through this small 4-game slate, Saturday, December 6th. Trying something new out. I'm going to do this screen share with our projections loaded in here. But as always, we appreciate the support, and make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on your way in, and let's get right into it. First off, we have the New York Knicks taking on the Washington Wizards. Knicks favored by 10 with a 239 over-under. We know how it's going to play out. Wizards are dead last in defensive rating and pretty much towards the bottom in every defensive metric that matters on the season. So the one that we should definitely be focused on is their rim defense. They're dead last in points allowed at the rim. And Knicks have a couple of guys that attack the basket pretty efficiently. So I think we know how to attack them on that side. On the Knicks end, their defense has held up pretty nicely without Mitchell Robinson out of the lineup. About 15th overall, middle of the pack rim defense, slightly towards the bottom of the half, 3-point defense. So that's kind of where we'll be looking to attack them. But over the last 14 games, that's how many games Mitchell Robinson has missed. They're about even with their season totals, but a slightly bigger rim funnel on the season without Mitchell Robinson. But yeah, on the Knicks side, let me go over to this game. On the Knicks side, definitely have a ton of interest in Julius Randle. I think he'll have a good chance to bounce back here after the terrible shooting night last night against the Sixers. Shot 1 for 11. But if you just look at his recent game log, I mean, he's been scoring the ball really well lately. 35, 39, 28, 38, 25, 24. So he's been, consistently in the mid-20s. Always adds some rebounds to his totals as well. And this is one of the better spots for interior scorers. So I like the spot here a lot for Julius Randle. Jalen Brunson also in a really good spot. We've seen the Wizards again beat up by lead ball handlers all year long. They struggle in the pick and roll, and they're allowing the 6th most points per possession to ball handling pick and roll men. So definitely a good spot for him. Their Wizards are dead last in DVP to the point guard position on the season. So Brunson in equally as good of a role, but in good of a spot. But I think I slightly prefer Randall, $200 more. I like the spot for him. OG Anunoby he kind of just profiles as fine to me, 6.5K. He hasn't really done enough on this Knicks team to really earn that price tag. Hasn't shown huge upside. Minutes are going to be there. He's got the Tom Thibodeau cardio plan where he's going to be playing upper 30s minutes on a nightly basis. But just hasn't really shown the upside, 31, 28, and 16. Kind of trending in the wrong direction. So I'm okay getting away from him. But if it's like a last man in type situation, I think that he's fine. I really like this matchup for Isaiah Hartenstein. We know how bad the Wizards are against opposing centers. This is the best matchup for opposing big men going against this Wizards team. Hartenstein has a couple of things going for him. One, the matchup obviously is great for centers. Two, Tom Thibodeau seems to trust Hartenstein a lot. He's going to play him heavy minutes. And 3, Thibodeau does not trust Precious Achiuwa, who they just got in that quickly RJ Barrett trade. So they're really running out there Hartenstein for a ton of minutes right now. You saw 39 in the first game after the quickly trade, 37 last game or 2 games ago, and then 35 last night against these Sixers, and that was in a blowout. So he might have lost some extra one. I think we saw Precious get a few minutes. Yeah, he got 13 minutes, and that was in a blowout scenario. So I think that in a closer game, you'll see Hartenstein creep up to upper 30s minutes, and this is a great spot for him. Josh Hart also seems way too cheap right now at 4.5K. I would much prefer him to Dante DiVincenzo for 900 cheaper, looking at less than a point difference in their projection. His rebounding totals have been up a lot lately. He's got 3 games of at least double-digit rebounds. Got there with 15 rebounds and 6 assists last night. So I would not expect that on a nightly basis, but he's always been a really solid rebounder, so I think this is a pretty good spot for him. You would definitely take the 25 to 28 fantasy points at 4.5K. Have a little bit of interest in Miles McBride if you're looking to play from a blowout angle. He got up 15 minutes last night. He's going to play the backup point guard minutes. They obviously see something with him. After they shipped off quickly in RJ Barrett, they wasted no time and signed him to a 3-year deal. So I think that they obviously have some trust in him, and he should be fine to play into a blowout if the game does blow out. And if not, then he'll probably see 12 to 14 minutes in the backup point guard spot. So I think that he's definitely in play. On the Wizards side, don't really have a ton of interest. Obviously, they're one of the worst teams in the league, but they struggle offensively as well. I think that if you're playing from this game, for this game to be playing like a close game type angle, I think Kuzma makes a ton of sense. Usage has come down a lot. Obviously, fantasy scoring has come down a lot. Only seen 25, 23 minutes, but in a close game, you saw against Atlanta, put up 31 shots, 38 real points, 58 DraftKings points. So that's kind of what you're playing into. If you're playing Kuzma, I would definitely want to pair him with one of Brunson or Randall on the other side and hope that this game stays close. I think I slightly prefer Denny Avia, though. He's $1,700 cheaper, and he's actually shown a safer floor and pretty solid upside in close games as well. Really solid rebounder, and I think that his minutes are just a little bit safer than Kuzma's, even if the game were to blow out. But Denny always starts off really hot. I remember this game a couple nights ago against Cleveland. I saw a bunch of people in that 888 played Denny, and he started off really hot. I think he had like 20 fantasy points in the first quarter, and then that's like pretty much what he finished with. So he definitely has a low floor, but I like the ceiling on Denny a little bit more, and you're not spending almost 8K for him. Solid matchup for Gafford as well. I mentioned that the Knicks are struggling with their rim defense since Mitchell Robinson has gone down. Do prefer Hartenstein for $200 cheaper, but he's a fine option. I think Tyus Jones is pretty interesting too, though. The Knicks also struggle with pick and roll ball handlers. We just saw Tyrese Maxey put up 27, 4, and 9 on this team last night, and that was in a blowout. The Knicks are bottom 7 in pick and roll points allowed per game. So Tyus and Gafford, they got a nice little 2-man game going. So I don't mind that. I'm not playing Jordan Poole. I don't care that he's projecting as a positive value. Guy is just so bad right now. I would much rather play Bilal Coulibaly for $1,100 cheaper. He's seen back-to-back games of 33-plus minutes. He's shown some pretty good upside in some games earlier in the season when he was getting the minutes when they were a little bit thinner. So I think I would prefer him, and I think that he'll definitely play in a blowout. It makes sense to get him more minutes just with them investing heavily into their rookies in the draft. So I like Coulibaly over Jordan Poole. That's going to do it for this game. Move over to the next one. I got Boston taking on the Indiana Pacers with a 249 over-under. Boston favored by 7. Both these teams should be pretty well rested after the blowout victories last night. We know how this is going to play out. Pacers going to play fast. They give up a ton of rim points, and they're going to look to take away the three-point line. Celtics are a top 3 rim defense, but they're allowing the 7th most three-pointers per game. So I think with all that considered, we have a good idea of how to attack this on the Boston side. Jason Tatum, great spot for him here. This reminds me of a lot of what Tambo would say whenever he's on the show, talking about how Jason Tatum is kind of the guy that will get up for these bigger matchups. And I think this kind of profiles as one of those spots here. The Pacers are an emerging team in the East. They've beaten the Bucks 4 times this year already. So I think that the Celtics will definitely take notice of that, look to come out hot in this game. I think Tatum puts up a pretty big score here in an up-paced matchup. Pacers are dead last in DVP to power forwards on the season as well, and the Pacers could be without Aaron Nesmith tonight, who's one of their better wing defenders. So I love the spot for Tatum here. I think he puts up a really big score. Kristaps Porzingis in a good spot too. Pacers bottom 2 in rim defense this season, and Porzingis adds pretty good upside with the blocks and steals. The Pacers love to attack the rim, so I think that will provide him with a lot of opportunities to get some blocks. I saw a 3-block game a couple of games ago against OKC, and they kind of similar. They like to attack the rim a lot. So I think we could see something similar like that tonight for Porzingis. Jaylen Brown also in play. Definitely like him much more when it's around this price tag and you see like a $2,000 difference between him and Tatum. It's $1,900 to almost $2,000, but yeah, like I said, it's a really good spot for interior scorers, and Jaylen Brown is up to 11 drives per game on the season. I think he'll have plenty of success when he looks to attack the rim, so he'll see a weaker defender on him also. So I don't mind him for the salary savings, and on a small 4-game slate, think that $1,900 could go a long way. As far as the guards go, though, Derek White, Drew Holiday, don't have a ton of interest in them. Just much rather look to get up to these top three guys. Not looking to play Al Horford at 6,500 either. And on the Indiana side, Tyrese Halliburton going to have to carry a huge offensive workload here like he does every single night. I think that he could see his minutes creep up to 40. I'm just checking to see if we got any injury news. Nothing for these games. But yeah, the Pacers they're already without Bruce Brown here, who takes a little bit of ball handling. Andrew Nembhard listed questionable with the back injury. He's kind of dealt with a plethora of injuries, so I think that he has a good chance to miss here as well. So they could be left with just Tyrese Halliburton and TJ McConnell as their lead ball handlers. They'll be really thin at the guard spot. Matchup wise, pretty tough against Drew Holiday, Derek White, two really solid defenders. Kind of seen Drew Holiday get beaten up a little bit. He's looks to have lost a little bit of a step. Still a really solid defender, but he's given up a few big games to Steph Curry, Cade Cunningham, Shai Gilgeous, all really solid players. But yeah, Halliburton's just playing out of his mind right now. His assist numbers are through the roof. His assist turnover ratio is really solid. Saw him get there in 25 minutes last game, almost put up a triple double. So he's definitely in play. I think he's definitely gonna have to take more than 6 shots here against Boston with the team being so thin. But if he can get the threes to fall, I think he could put up a really big score and like him as one of the better spend-up options on the slate. Miles Turner could see really big minutes in this one as well. Isaiah Jackson got downgraded to questionable. I think he has a hairline fracture in one of his fingers, so that's pretty tough to play through as a big man where you're grabbing rebounds and playing with your hands a lot. So I think that could give Miles Turner a pretty clear pathway to mid-30s minutes, and I think he has pretty big upside at 6,600, even in a bad matchup. I would not mind him at all. And as far as all these secondary guys go, it's really dependent on the injury news for Nesmith, Nembhard. Already have Bruce Brown out, obviously, but if Nembhard is out, I think you see a pretty big workload from Bennett Mathurin at almost 6K. I think that he's going to have to play pretty big minutes, and he's a pretty solid shooter, so I think this is a fine matchup for him. But his minute ceiling could be really big here if Nembhard is out. I think that if Nesmith is out, that would affect guys like Buddy Hield, Jalen Smith, Obi Toppin a little bit. Buddy Hield's kind of in the middle of the trade talks right now for the Pacers, so I don't know how much they really want to run him out there. But with this team being so thin, they may have to run him out there for pretty big minutes. I don't think that they want to play these guys in this lower range, the Kendall Browns, Jordan Nwora, Jarris Walker. I think they'll probably stick to their main rotation pieces, so they may have to run him out there for pretty big minutes. And in that case, I would have interest in him at 5,300. Pretty good matchup for three-point shooters as well. But if Nesmith misses, I like this spot for Obi Toppin again here. I had him in my core last night. Looked to have a really big game, and then obviously the game just blew out. He wasn't really needed for heavy minutes, but just the coach speak. I mean, Rick Carlisle has really talked him up a bunch, saying that he's been really impressed with how well he's been playing lately. So I think that he's kind of earned more minutes, and his size and athleticism could definitely be needed in this matchup versus Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So I like him a good bit tonight. Move over to the Utah and Philadelphia 76ers game. 238.5 total with Philly favored by 11 points. Yeah, I mean, the Jazz are going to be really outmatched here. I'm expecting a huge blowout. The Jazz are one of the worst road teams in the league, and they're not going to have any answers for Joel Embiid and company. Have to keep an eye on the injury report throughout the day because Joel Embiid did look pretty banged up last night against the Knicks, but he's kind of always battling some sort of injury. I would expect him to play, though, and be a full go and likely go back to his ways of scoring 70-plus DK points. I mean, the Knicks had a really good answer for him defensively, only put up 54. But I think, on a regular night and this type of matchup, he probably gets closer to 70 when he sees his normal workload and normal usage. I think I'd slightly have more interest in Tyrese Maxey in this one, though, just thinking through the way that the rotations are going to shake out for the Sixers. We know Joel Embiid is going to play his full first quarter and third quarter rotations and then likely check in around the 6-minute mark of the second and fourth quarter. And a lot of the times when you look at Embiid's numbers, when you see these 30-minute games, 31, 30, 29, 30, obviously he still puts up big fantasy scores, but you're not getting the huge, the 77s to 80 from him when he gets 36 minutes. And the reason being just they played it really smart where they will obviously run him out there for full quarter stints, and then they can kind of assess, be like, okay, if we're up by 20, 25 at this point in the fourth quarter, we don't really need to bring him back in, so they won't extend him and push him. But Tyrese Maxey, he's going to run the second unit. He's going to start the second and fourth quarter. He's going to demand all that usage. Obviously, we won't have any D'Anthony Melton or Tobias Harris here to take any sort of usage away from him in the second unit. So I like him to kind of put up a big score and play into blowout a little bit at 8.3K. I think he's got a really solid matchup just with the Jazz being such a big three-point funnel. And they're dead last in transition defense, and that kind of plays right into Tyrese Maxey's game. So I like him a lot, 8.3K, really solid price tag for him. I think Kelly Oubre could be a pretty interesting option at 5.8K as well, with Tobias Harris already rolled out here. Going to have to play pretty heavy minutes if the game were to stay close, but they do have a lot of depth at the small forward, power forward position, so he's likely going to start, but not sure how much upside he really has. Have a little bit of interest in Daniel House. I don't know what the starting rotation is going to be. I would assume probably Marcus Morris steps in there, but Daniel House, he saw 22 minutes last game when Tobias Harris got rolled out in the third quarter or whenever it was. A little bit of a revenge spot too if you want to get into that, but that's really what I'm looking to on the Philly side. And on the Jazz side, I'm not really looking to play anybody, but if you are, it's probably going to be Laurie, Clarkson, Sexton, Kessler, the main guys. And I think that you would probably want a Sixer guy, a Maxey, Embiid. On the other side, if you're playing any one of these guys, I doubt they're going to be able to keep this game close. I'm expecting a pretty big blowout. So I'm not really looking there, but that's it for that game. And next one, we got the Milwaukee Bucks taking on the Houston Rockets, 228 over under, with Milwaukee favored by 6.5. Yeah, the Rockets pretty surprised, like just how well they played this season. One of the better defenses on the year, top 4 in D rating. They allow the least transition points in defense. So pretty sound defensive team. The Bucks bottom 9 defense right now, bottom 10 rim defense, but they're a top 5 3-point defense. Kind of flip the script on what Milwaukee has been the last couple of years. Usually really solid rim defense, but a worse 3-point defense. So kind of interesting to see how that's been playing out, but don't have a ton of interest in this game, especially on the Bucks side. I mean, obviously Giannis is a great spend. I do prefer Embiid for 200 cheaper, but Giannis has been playing really well lately. He's seen 60 plus in 6 straight games. 8 out of the last 9 games for him, he's had 60 or more as well. So he's just on a really good streak right now. But we'll see Jabari Smith Jr. on defense, and Jabari Smith kind of profiles to me as somebody that could give Giannis a little bit of trouble. He's like 6'10", really long wingspan, really athletic kid. So obviously, the matchup doesn't really matter as much when you talk about Giannis, but the Rockets are a really solid rim defense, so there is a little bit of downside to him from a scoring perspective. Damian Lillard doesn't really have that good of a matchup. He did have a bounce-back game against the Spurs last time, going for 25 and 10, but only got up to 49 DK points in 39 minutes, so losing a lot of usage to Giannis right now. Matchup is not all that great for him, so I heavily prefer Tyrese Maxey for $500 cheaper in a much better spot. Outside of that, though, I don't really have interest in any of these guys. I mean, Middleton, you never know if he's going to see 33 minutes or 15 minutes. Yeah, I mean, he got rolled out at halftime last game. Obviously, he's been scoring really well. He's always been a really solid fantasy point per minute guy, but 7,500 seems a little steep for me. I think Brook Lopez can make her player pool. Has always got just a sneaky upside with the blocks and the steals. He can knock down some threes if he's hot. But I don't love it at 6,400. Outside of that, I don't really have much interest on the Bucks side. On the Rocket side, I don't love to attack Brook Lopez with opposing centers, but I mean, Sengun, obviously, he's kind of the centerpiece of this offense right now. Got pretty solid assist percentage, good usage. So I think he's a fine option, 8.6K. I think I slightly prefer Fred VanVleet, though. We've seen, all year we've been attacking the Bucks with opposing guards. Just with them having Malik Beasley, Damian Lillard out there trying to defend these guys, they've really struggled. Bottom 7 in DVP to the point guard position on the season. So I think in a close game, we should see Fred VanVleet near 40 minutes. And think he'd have pretty big upside in that case. Jalen Green's been playing much better, but he's just so scoring dependent. I mean, you look at the peripheral stats, doesn't really add much. Had a couple spike games with the 8 and 4, but I mean, really he's going to be around 4 to 5 rebounds, probably less. Doesn't really get a ton of assists, so you really need the 30 points from him. Price tag has come down. Matchup is good, but I don't love it. I think I like Jabari Smith a little bit better now that Tari Eason has been ruled out. So, you can ignore the projection on him. He was already ruled out. So that will give Jabari Smith a higher minutes floor. Bucks have really struggled with the interior defense this year, and they're bottom 9 in DVP to power forwards, surprisingly. So I think he has some sneaky upside and should not come with a lot of ownership. Yeah, seeing less than 10% right now. Last guy I'll mention as a value piece is Amen Thompson. They've been getting him more runs, seen 3 straight games of 20-plus minutes. Shown to be a pretty solid fantasy producer when he's getting the minutes to add some steals to his game. Adds the rebounds just like his brother. The coach has been talking him up too, saying that he's going to be a regular rotation piece. I think they're kind of looking to get him some minutes, trying to find places that they can. So I think he makes your player pool at 4K as well. But yeah, that is going to do it for this one. Nice little 4-game slate, easy Saturday. Got some football going on. Got week 18 tomorrow. So yeah, hope everybody has a good weekend, and I'll see you guys later.